Hi, this is Mark of the Wicked Edge Expert Corner Group, and here on Sunday School Tech Talk, and we're talking about guided sharpening, fixed position guided sharpening. My choice is Wicked Edge sharpeners, and that is an interesting subject because I like to deal with current issues in the fixed position guided sharpening social media arena, where people post comments about their experiences using their particular guided sharpeners. And of course, I feel that if they used the Wicked Edge, they could have an easier outcome. But there's a nemesis to Wicked Edge. And there always has been a nemesis to Wicked Edge. And I just produced these other videos and we talked about the generations and how Wicked Edge changed and how the vices went from the single standard vice that locked like this to one that was split to give it some flexibility. And then it went to the centering clamp vise, and then the dual cam vise, everything that Wicked, and split vices, and vices with nylon inserts. And Wicked Edge has done all kinds of things over the generations to come up to the fourth generation now, and a better clamp. But the old clamps are still out there, and they're a lot of them. The stuff lasts forever. It gets dusty and dirty and goes in your closet, but it still works. And I'm here to help you to dust it off and make use of it, and to use it how you maybe couldn't use it before. I'm not going to make any excuses. The early Wicked Edge models with the standard clamps were tough to use. If you mastered it, then you mastered it. If you did it well, you understood it and you did it well, but you were limited because of that standard vice. There are upgrades available now to take your old systems and bring them into the new generation. That's what we do here. One of the difficulties was dealing with Spydercos. And not to troll, but there was recently a guy posted a lot of words, and I'm glad he did because he needed to vent, because these things are a pain in the butt to clamp in a guided sharpening system because they are tapered every way. This is a Spyderco Delica 4, and this one is a Tenacious. And I just ordered this because it's very curved, and this one is less curved. But what I want to talk about the Spydercos is that they are tapered from here to here, and they are tapered from here to here. Everywhere you go across these knives, they're tapered, and they have this sucker, and the way that this comes together makes these bumps and the hole, they're tough to clamp. They're tough to know where to clamp them. The thing that happens is that do we clamp it so that we're straight on here? Do we clamp it on here? And how do we clamp it with this? So it's tough. And then because of this, we look to use either paper shims or chamois. This is leather chamois that I cut up out of the sheet that you use. Real leather chamois that you get at the auto parts store for drying your car. I use these in between the clamp, on the vise. And that doesn't mean it's a problem. There is nothing wrong with using a clamping aid, or putting painter's tape on your knife is a good idea to keep from scratching it, because this is metal. And if you clamp it and you don't clamp it right and it rotates, you could scratch it. This is black. I don't know what the finish is, whether it's powder coated or anodized, but it can scratch. So using painter tape or something on there is not a sign of failure or a problem with the wicked edge. It's something that is probably a good idea for you if you're using a knife that you don't want to mess up the finish. But that's one thing. Because of the thickness changes abruptly, and the hole, and to get the knife position with the sweet spot, they're tough. They're tough in any kind of sharpener. And then we're trying to follow the grind. We're using a fixed position guided knife sharpener on a knife that was made in a machine and not sharpened by a fixed position guided sharpener. The two don't match. So now we got to figure out how to clamp it, how not to mess up the finish, so we may need to use some taper clamping aid, how to position it so that our stones match this edge how we want it to match. What does that mean? That means that when we look at both sides, that shiny bevel is the same height along the whole length of the knife on both sides. Now, when you want to have those kind of outcomes, you got to look at where you start. And that's one of my problems that I have with people, is that they complain about the wicked edge, fixed position, guided angle sharpening, and the bevel heights from side to side, from the older generations with the standard vise to the new generations that, because of blade lean, and then because of the curve, matching the curve, how do we clamp it in any guided system? How do we clamp it relative to the guide rod so that the stones match? Well, they don't, because they weren't sharpened the same way. Unless that knife is made and cut in a curve and shaped in such a way with forethought that it is going to be sharpened and clamped and sharpened in a fixed position guided sharpening system, the bevel's not going to match, because they were ground, the steel was ground away by a different across the edge. This is fixing it. Now the stone moves how I move it across the edge. And it's up to me to match that bevel side to side to figure out how to clamp that knife to best get those to work. That's what's called profiling. Matching, the matching of that knife to the sharpener, to the clamping position, to the stone angle. All guided sharpeners, all fixed position guided sharpeners require some sort of profiling done initially. The first sharpening, to take that knife from how it came out of the box and now to match it to where it will get contacted by the stones. That takes some removing of steel and some playing with it. And we use a marker, and then we remove the marker and we look and we see where did we have a shiny spot and where is the marker still there. Well, if the marker is still there, it's still there because the stone didn't contact that place. So either we have to move the knife to where the stone can contact it, or move the stone to where it can contact that fixed position knife. It only works that way. That knife is now locked. So if that stone and that knife aren't coming together, you got to move this side or that side. Freehand or belts or all those, you can move everything. But you can't, because you can freely move them, the challenge is how do you hold them freely time and time again to get that consistency. We get the consistency with the fixed position guided sharpening, but now we need to learn how to put the two together. Find the sweet spot, that clamping position, this way, or this way, whatever it takes to have this knife edge and that stone come together. We want to do that at the beginning to get that with the marker, to get that as close as we can, and then at that point when we can't get it any closer, then with our stones we start to remove steel at those places that it didn't contact, to thin it out until we do contact that edge. There is that profiling that we have to do, that matching the clamped knife to the stone to the clamped position. All that is the profiling. Once that knife is profiled and you record that position in your sharpening log, how you had it slanted forward and back, up and down, you record that, and there are guides, alignment guides that help you to put a number to where that position is. Once you record that, the next time you just put the knife in, use your alignment guide, set it up, and you're ready to go. Then with your micro adjusters working with a cube, you get your angle right on where it's supposed to be, and it's dead on that bevel. So that's the charm of a fixed position guided sharpener. Once you get it, you put your knife each and every time right back in that same position, and now you're not removing a lot of steel. When you pick up that stone for the first time and touch that edge, you're working right on that bevel where you worked a year ago, the last time you sharpened it. Thanks.